Propaganda, a word so simple, but when used for wrong reasons could cost lives of 6 million humans. The word literally means to propagate, to spread. Originally adopted by the congregation of the Catholic Church in the 17th century, as part of spreading the Catholic faith in the non-Catholic countries. In the following centuries, it was used to refer to secular activities, and in the mid-19th century, the word propaganda was being used only in the political sense. We have seen from history the world during World War II, how one person changed the mentality of the whole nation, of a whole generation, including the children, to turn up against their neighbors, to turn up against the individuals of a particular group, regardless of their nationality, regardless of their status or position in the society, regardless of their contribution to the country. And an event happened, which was termed as Holocaust. And that event is considered to be the worst of all the atrocities ever committed against mankind in the modern world. There is no second opinion to that. This was the worst thing a human can do to another human. Whatever the conditions were at that time which led to this event, which led one person to think that extreme. The problem is that the whole world saw it happening and let it happen, and lives were lost. Lives of fellow human beings, those of someone's sons, daughters, fathers, mothers, grandparents, grandsons, uncles, aunts, neighbors, and people like us, whose only crime was that they belonged to a particular religion that the ruler of the country was against. There have been so much research done on this event, the whole world shed its tears in compassion, and this event led the Jews to get their own homeland, own nation, own country, where their rights were protected and honored, where they could feel safe, where they could feel at home, and where a ruler cannot put you in the gas chambers for believing in a God different than him. There is one other community in the world who had suffered the Holocaust. Not once, not twice, but so many times that now we have even lost count. The Sikhs, being termed as Khalistanis, separatist, terrorist, and so much more these days over the media. The Sikhs, who have been the most distinguishable and most visible minority in their own homeland. They have suffered such a huge loss of life in the past 3 centuries that at some point of time, more than half of their population was killed in genocides, and multiple times. It happened in the 17th century, 18th century, 19th century, 20th century, and it is about to happen in the 21st century now, as the situations are being created in India. The same situation that was created there before 1984, and the same situation that was created in Germany before World War II. If anyone needs to witness what propaganda really means and how it works, we can check most of the media outlets in India these days. Let alone the history of the previous centuries, as it is always being ridiculed as being unbelievable or so. We have seen this genocide happen very recently, in front of our eyes, in 1984 in India, when thousands of Sikhs were killed brutally on the streets of Delhi and other big cities in India. Men were burnt alive by putting burning tires around their necks. Women got raped in front of their kids. Their homes and businesses looted and burnt. Their only crime was that they belonged to a particular religion that the ruler of the country was against. They were common people who had nothing to do with the politics being played at that time. But thousands lost their lives as collateral damage for the political gains of an elected official of a country which claims to be the largest democracy of the world. And that's not it. For the next 10 years, in and around the Sikh homeland Punjab, most of the Sikh men aged 13 onwards were killed by police, claiming that they are terrorists, they are extremists, and they are separatists. School-going children from grade 9 or 10 were arrested from their homes, schools, or from the streets and were killed and their bodies burned or destroyed, naming as unknown bodies. And there are still parents alive in Punjab whose kids never came back from schools. We all remember the movie Purge, in which the elite were allowing every crime legal for the night, and they called it the ethnic cleansing. And this purge actually happened in New Delhi in 1984 for the same ethnic cleansing. The crime was legal for not just 12 hours, but for the days to come, when everyone was killing one particular community for whatever reasons, and the slogan was to finish every single one of Sikhs. We cannot argue about the reasons behind this situation, as whatever it was, the basic right of being human, not being a Sikh, being human, that is to live, was denied. And it was denied in the most inhumane way possible. The main event that led to this situation was Operation Blue Star, when a democratic country had its own military with all the war equipment like tanks and missiles, attack its own citizens who were gathered in their holiest shrine for the commemoration of the martyrdom of their prophet, fifth Guru, Guru Arjan Dev Ji. The reason given was that there were terrorists hiding in there, and apparently that was the only way out to deal with them. And every single person inside the premises, including few-month-old kids, never made it out alive and were butchered by their own country's army. And this attack led to the killing of the Prime Minister of the country at that time. Let's put aside the morality of both these incidents. Every time, most of the lives lost were innocent. And when the government fails to protect the rights and lives of its innocent citizens, what measures are left for a community whose whole philosophy is based on their guru's teachings, which states that do not oppress anyone, but never get oppressed? Consider every humankind as one race, never discriminate, and never let any kind of discrimination happen to anyone. Everyone should be free to practice their religion, and no one should be forced to change their beliefs. Stand by the vulnerable and fight for your own and everyone else's rights, and fight till the last breath. Never be the first to strike, but be the last. Be fearless, but humble. The 10th Guru, Guru Gobind Singh Ji, said, "From now on, you are the Khalsa, the pure, the sovereign one, the saint soldier, who will believe in one king, one God, and live like a humble warrior." He gave us the identity with a turban that in those times only Mughal rulers were allowed to wear. asked us not to cut the hair, so a Khalsa can be identified easily. Hence, a true Sikh will be fearless, will never hide his or her identity, will never back down from his ideals, and will fight when anyone's right of freedom is violated, with help of the sword that he or she should carry with them all the time. The same turban and the sword, which is now just a symbolic dagger, that is in the question over and over at the security checkpoints at airports around the world. He made us kings, not of any land, but of our own lives, where we can be in charge of our own freedom and own rights. And the Sikhs have followed these teachings with all their hearts to their last breath. And that is why most of the Sikhs carry those symbols, even in the modern times, as a reminder to be what we believe in, doing selfless services in their communities and all around the world. Those are the people with the yellow and orange turbans or bandanas on their heads, giving away free food and life supplies wherever any calamities like flood, famines, or wars happen. After a bloody struggle of almost 100 years, we became the kings of our own homeland in 1799 for the next 50 years under Maharaja Ranjit Singh, whose rule was an example of excellence and is recorded in history when the British Empire, the biggest empire till today, had a treaty of friendship with Kingdom of Khalsa in 1809 and was given a recognition of an empire with the same status as the British Empire. But after the Maharaja's death, the British took over and abducted the Maharaja's son, 5-year-old Prince Dalip Singh, and took him overseas to Great Britain, where he was converted to Christianity and was not allowed to see his mother for the longest time. And when after a long struggle with the royals he was allowed, she was gone blind, waiting to see her son. She was sick and died soon after that. He was allowed to set foot on his own homeland only twice, on very tightly controlled trips. Once to bring his mother over to England, and second time to cremate her body. The Kingdom of Khalsa was supposed to be returned to the Sikhs in 1947 when the British left India. There was no heir to the throne left, and the Sikh political leadership put their trust in the first Prime Minister of independent India because he promised to give Punjab full sovereignty, a state within a state. And that promise was broken, saying that was then, now the things have changed. Sikhs had an option of a free state at the time of partition of India, which was based on religion, but lost that option and half of Punjab, half of Kingdom of Khalsa to Pakistan, a newly formed Muslim country, in the hope of a small but sovereign state. And we are still waiting for the same sovereignty till today, 76 years after independence. Khalistan is a politically created issue, which was forcefully tagged on to the prominent Sikh activists asking for the promised sovereignty from their own government. There was never a question of a separate nation, as it was not even a possibility at that time. The question being raised was that why are we, the residents of Punjab, being denied their basic rights? And at the same time, the government wants to take full control for not just the resources, but also of the culture, the language, economics, religion, and the freedom of being a human. And to achieve that goal, the same techniques that were used by the British during their rule in India, the same techniques were used against us by their descendants, and they are still being used by the rulers for the past 7.5 decades. A Sikh activist named Sant Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale, who is always labeled as the biggest terrorist of all times, following the footsteps of a saint soldier guru, stood up for the rights of his own people, not just Sikhs, but all Punjabis, and he advocated for a proposal for the government to safeguard the fundamental rights of religious and linguistic freedom of a state inside a republic. The demands were that the national constitution should be given a federal shape and the relations and rights of the center and the state should be redefined. Chandigarh, originally raised on Punjab's land as the capital of the state, should be given to Punjab, which is still property of the central government, not Punjab, till today. That we should set terms for the use of waters of the state, which according to the international riparian law are property of Punjab. Any water being given to other states should be compensated for. You should stop splitting Punjab into smaller states based on the language and return the land already cut off from Punjab. Punjab should not be discriminated against in terms of economic assistance and development of infrastructure and industry. Sikhs should not be discriminated against anywhere in the country for employment, salaries, promotions, or under any circumstances. The ratio of Sikhs based on their population in the country should be maintained in the army. And the language Punjabi should not be discriminated against anywhere in the country. And there are still refugees living in camps who had to come over to the Indian Punjab at the time of the partition, who had to run for their lives, leaving everything behind. They should be given assistance and looked after. The government of Punjab will have the highest ideals based on the Sikh philosophy and teachings. Under economic program, the basic 3 principles should be dignity of labor, economic and social structure to uplift the poor and depressed, and there should be no concentration of economic or political power in the hands of capitalists. Punjab brought in the Green Revolution, which made the country self-sufficient in terms of food, and the demand for a cut down of excise duty and prices of agriculture equipment was also part of that resolution. And all these demands were fed to the media machine that changed everything into propaganda, that gave birth to the monster of hate that resulted in Sant Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale being inside the Harmandir Sahib complex that was attacked in 1984 under the name Operation Blue Star in order to kill him by the government of the Republic, which not just denied everything on this proposal, but instead kept on doing totally the opposite. None of those terms were ever met. It was not a superficial picture of heavens or a fantasy. It was possible and was already achieved under the rule of Kingdom of Khalsa from 1799 till 1849. Khalsa Raj was a golden milestone in the history of the modern world. A state where every one of the above said terms of Anandpur Sahib resolution were honored. A state spanning over 520,000 kilometer squares. Compared to the area of current state of Punjab, India, of 50,362 kilometer squares. That was a state where the king was religiously liberal, brave, honest, and a true public servant. A state where not only religious and economic freedom was a must, But despite being a Sikh state, the Maharaja donated generously for the Hindu and Muslim places of worship and built new ones. He got the religious scriptures of other religions translated into Punjabi language. He spent a lot on education as he was totally illiterate, but he wanted his people to be literate and knowledgeable. His cabinet consisted of scholars from all the religions and all over the world. And we had Kohinoor, the same Kohinoor that the Queen of England used to wear in her crown, and was tricked away from the heir to the throne, then 11-year-old Maharaja Duleep Singh. There were French citizens who used to be in Napoleon's army, worked in the Khalsa army earning salaries. And today, citizens of that glorious nation are working as truck drivers, taxi drivers, and food delivery drivers. And all those kids we see in all the developed countries, termed as international students, are the citizens of that long-lost nation. They are a lost generation, including the ones in Punjab, who are purposely being made drug addicts. And this is a generation who don't even know who they are and which glorious history do they belong to. This is the fight we are not allowed to fight, to save our next generation and make them aware of their history and their culture. This is exactly how cultures are destroyed. And this is the exact same thing that happened to the natives of British colonies like Canada, Australia, US, and many more. Sikhs have never attacked any country till today, but Punjab has been the frontier province in numerous invasions of India over the centuries, the last one being by their own country. Sikhs are the only ones to defeat the Afghans during Khalsa Raj and built a fort to close the passage of Khyber, which was used by the invaders to enter India for ages. And since then, there has not been a single invasion from that side. The same Afghans who Russia and the US tried to win over so many times, but were unsuccessful. Sikhs fought for the independence of India, and despite being less than 2% of the total population of the country, 90% of freedom fighters who were killed or sent on exile were Punjabis and were Sikhs. When fighting against the British, on a call for help during both world wars, Sikhs fought alongside the British Army, obeying their Guru's order to stand up for the right, and the call of the time was to save the humanity and win the war. And the hope was to help the empire and get their own kingdom back from them. The Battle of Saragadi is considered to be one of the bravest battles ever fought, where 21 Sikh soldiers fought with 10,000 Afghans till their last breath, but didn't back out. And we are still waiting for those favors to be returned. Today, Sikhs live in more than 48 countries around the globe, and no other country have ever questioned the integrity of Sikh ideology and faith other than our own. Sikhs are part of the mainstream in all the countries and are contributing to the economies and societies of those countries. And not just Sikhs. There are people from other religions who, being a Punjabi, understand that this so-called concept of Khalistan and very well know that the rights being asked are not only for the Sikhs. Those are for all the citizens of the state of Punjab. It does not matter what politicians keep on saying. There is no racial tension among the common people of the state. And every true Punjabi, regardless of their religion, who has a little faith in the teachings of the Sikh gurus, will always be a productive, proud, and generous member of any society of which he or she will be a part of, working hard and standing up for the vulnerable, helping the person in need, and be a responsible citizen. We, the Sikhs and the Punjabis, being the citizens of this world, raise this question for all of you, that why is it a crime to ask for our basic rights to live free, follow our own religion, save our culture, speak our own language? And why do we have to fight for these basic rights every single time and with every single regime? Who is the ruler of the Republic of Bharat, as they're planning to call India in future? We are not separatist. We just want recognition as a community, need religious freedom, and don't want any intrusion into the culture, history, language, with malicious intentions for mere political gains. Please look at the other side of the story as well, which is not being shown to the public. And whatever is being shown is brainwashing the whole country. And we all know where does that lead to. The propaganda before the Holocaust was done only with the help of radio and print media. And we all know how big of a damage it did. We don't realize how dangerous it is during this age of information technology. All the things discussed earlier are facts and can be verified. And apparently these days, on every kind of media, everyone's an expert on these issues. Please try to see the truth that is being lost and ignored in the storm of lies and fake news. We are part of your communities, our communities. We are peace-loving, God-fearing, hard-working, loving, caring, responsible, and sovereign in our own sense. And we will stand by everyone through the thick and thin, regardless of religion, race, or faith, as we have been so far. There are individuals who are using the Sikh identity to ruin the image of Sikhism and our ideology. But those are just con artists and are just a part of the system whose intentions are to create the split in the religions and rule. We are a community of born leaders whose potential has always been ignored and wasted by oppressing and destroying our community and our culture, by forcing this false propaganda and unnecessary issues on us. The only reason being that we ask questions and we stand up for the rights of our own and everyone else around us in our own homeland. We just want to be given the freedom to practice our religion, follow our beliefs, and be given a chance to exist and excel with everyone else. And we have a history to prove that whenever given the respect and chance we deserve, we have done wonders, set milestones, and we have done miracles. The Sikh community has always risen up from its own ashes. Now let's see how much we have to burn this time before a comeback, if that is even a possibility at this time. No matter what the future holds for the Sikh community, no matter what the consequences are going to be of whatever is cooking in our own nation, but one thing is for sure, the people who are going to suffer the most are going to be the people like us, you and me. The common people who have nothing to do with politics. People who are worried about their livelihood, their kids' future, and they are worried about their own existence as a Sikh and as a human being. We, the community of saint soldiers, the humble warriors, the protectors of faith, the bearers of the yellow flag, the diamonds which are being ridiculed as pieces of glass. We, the followers of the Sikh faith, we make a sincere and humble appeal to all the citizens of the world. Please recognize the efforts made by our community to the societies of which we are a part of. Please try to look beyond the distorted picture being shown to you. Please investigate before giving out a verdict. And please help us out to save our faith, our culture, and our next generation. These are the very basic needs of being a human. And let's not forget that for standing up for humanity, for being a human, and to do the right thing, all we have got is one chance.